Hey, welcome back. Okay, so in the last lesson, we looked at particle flow and how to make tornado particles. In this one, we are going to go move on to kind of the gas sim stuff where I used FumeFX. So you can see here's our tornado. This is a low-res tornado that I used to advect the particles. Not much interesting going on there, but it's easy to open, quick for kind of demonstration purposes. So I'm assuming you know FumeFX. However, if you don't, and I don't think Digital Tutors has any kind of introduction to FumeFX, I'm actually gonna do a little introduction. So if you know Fume, just skip this lesson. Okay, so here we are over in a test scene where we're gonna learn how to set up a simple thing that looks kind of like this. So let's delete all this stuff, right? So okay, you've got a ball and a cube, and you want interaction between this stuff. So we make a FumeFX by going over here to the object create panel, where you get everything, standard stuff, particle. Anyways, we're going to make a FumeFX grid. So you click the box, and then you can kind of drag out a shape, which you're not limited to. So then you drag your shape out, and you control this by this length, height, width, and you know, I'm assuming you're familiar with gas simulation stuff, so I mean, it's nothing different. It's just like Maya. It doesn't have the adaptive grid yet that they do, or you can rig that up in Houdini too. So the resolution of this is all controlled through the spacing attribute, and you'll see how this shrinks and actually shows you the size of the voxel. So okay, you know, this is a pretty sizable resolution. This, you know, 1000 by 942 by 600 or so. That's the kind of stuff you'll probably end up doing in a professional environment. You'll end up simming at these resolutions. However, it's very difficult if you don't have just a computer you can slave to for 18 hours or so. So okay, you know, a final res for like a home simulation guy doing itself is probably around here, 370. You know, this is about what the tornado was simmed at. So generally, a spacing of around 1 is going to get you good enough detail that it's interesting to look at. But we're going to start up higher for testing, you know. So you can see our resolution here is about 100 by 94 by 61. That's going to look ugly, but it's really fast. And what's funny is how fast it is compared to Maya. I mean, just doing this stuff, you can turn around iterations so fast. And actually, we'll just bust one out right now. I'm going to work really quickly and just then explain to you what I did, and just so you can see how to get results. So FumeFX, object source, we'll make one of these, and then we'll add this guy to it so that he can, actually we'll just emit from this guy. Oh, and we'll emit from him, and that's a new feature in Fume, being able to add multiple objects to one object emitter, which is pretty cool and useful. And then we're also going to add this guy as a guy who can like collide with stuff, and then make him solid, set his speed multiplier to 1.5, then not worry about where the cache is going right now, because we just want to make something, and you'll see what's going on. Looks kind of gross. You can see this thing should shoot through. So yeah, really uninteresting. That's kind of how Fume's going to start out, and looking really gross. That's because it's trying to do smoke and fire right now. You see a little fireball goes through there, which is a little cool, but not what we're going for. So Fume's really fast to work with. You can see how quick you can just get this stuff set up and start simming. Basically, to emit Fume from things, you need a source of some kind, and Fume provides many different types of sources. Delete him. You can use a simple source, just like this, which you can drag out, and it really is pretty simple. I mean, it's just going to emit Fume effects from inside this circle, and the vector it's going to come out is where that arrow is pointing. So you can see if I add him in here, and we add this guy, press play, and it's going to start emitting this Fume. So stop. You have all kind of little controls on this simple source. For example, you can see I can access them here, or you can access them from inside the FumeFX floating dialog. We can change the directional velocity to be something much more like we can bump that up, and you'll see now it'll shoot out of the arrow much greater at a greater speed. We'll also shrink it down so it looks a little cooler. And this is an easy way to make flamethrower stuff. Usually you use particles, but you can use this kind of the simple source. I mean, it's so fast. That's the thing, is you take a hit when you use particles or even geometry, but when you use a simple source, that stuff just is so blazing fast to work with. Like you can see, I'm just having a good time. I'm just simming stuff, and it's working really quickly. Now you can see even with the simple source, you can take the spacing even lower just for test stuff, and I mean it's still almost real time. Like you can see it. Yeah, it's slowing down a little bit, but that's pretty good for the resolution I'm simming at, which is like 200 by 170 by 100. I mean, try doing that in Maya at this speed, and it will not happen. So okay, we emitted a little bit of kind of ugly looking fire, and for now, let's no. That's how you continue a simulation up here. So yeah, if you want to continue the sim that you stopped, you can click that button, which is pretty cool. That it'll save all that data and let you just resume. Okay, let's cancel this. So that's a simple source, and you can look this up in more details, but you've got a lot of things for how it emits. So there's fire and there's smoke. That's the two different things that it can simulate, and they're beyond the complexity of this kind of introduction. But just know that this is where you can get all this stuff, and we'll turn off fuel because we just want to simulate this kind of smoke stuff. So press play. See, now there's no fire. Okay, so the basic stuff you're going to be working with are like objects and stuff so you can collide. Like you can take this guy and add him into this object list, and then suddenly he'll collide with that ground, which is cool. You can see now it's working with the ground. And what we can also do is turn up the ground's influence on the sim, which is kind of fun. So you can take the box, make it solid, take the speed multiplier to like 2, and it'll just have a greater, well, you're probably not going to notice it here, but if we move the box, you'll see a ton. Let's do that. So let's animate this guy. So he's like auto key here, and then here he'll be like this, and then that is really uninteresting. So we'll drag this keyframe over here so it happens really fast, and you'll see sim it, stuff's emitting, then the box is going to pop up really quickly, comes up, hits the fume, and yeah, I guess overall pretty uninteresting. So let's look at what even happened there? Let's look at another way of emitting fume, right? So you've got the simple source. Let's try emitting it from an object. So let's use this thing called an object source. So object, we can grab an object, and suddenly that object will start emitting fume, as long as we add it to the list. So add it to the list. Oh, I don't think I added it to the list. What's wrong? FumeFX. Yeah, so that should work. Oh, yeah, it was working. I don't know what's happening. Anyways, so okay, now we're emitting fume from this object, and you can do a couple things like emit from its surface normals, and that's actually a really cool way of getting some neat effects. Like if we up the divisions here in the object, 20, 20, 20, no, not there, 2. Then we add like some noise in Max, fractal 10, like we do 20, 20, 20. Right, so we got some noise. We scale that up a bit so it's more exaggerated. We do maybe 100, 100, 100. Get more of a kind of Z style noise. Scale this guy down. And animate that. So now we should have, now we have some crazy noise. You can see it's going to take all that into effect, and suddenly you can make some really cool kind of fume motion, especially if you turn the object's velocity up to like higher. And now you see as that noise starts to affect the object, you get some definitely like interesting motion going on, which will sim way faster if we take that resolution back down. So let's turn the spacing back up to a reasonable resolution. That'll sim fast. So yeah, you can see with that noise animating, suddenly you're getting some really cool, if you're trying to just throw some fog around in an environment, this is a really good way of just kind of spreading that stuff out really quickly, emitting from a noisy shape or plane. You can see it's just kind of taking it from the object. What we can also do is have this thing affect that sim. So if we add it to the list here, and we'll set it to solids, but it's seed multiplier. It's something really high too, just so we can see this. And then we sim. I forget where I actually put that circle. Is it going to collide? Where is he moving? He's going over there, and then he comes down. Okay, so he will in like the 50 or so frames. Okay. So the speed multiplier is just going to affect how strong the force of an object is when it hits that fume. So if it was at 1, it would just kind of pass through, but now you're going to see this thing's at 2. So when it hits the fume, it's going to cause a lot of like impact to it. And that can be really great for doing things like ground puffs. You see that? It just blew through it. So let's go take a look at what happened. We can see our ball kind of blew through it and left a trail. Just like that. That's pretty cool. That kind of thing's hard to do in Maya. So yeah, just blew through there. You can get lots of cool effects, and especially if you start running particles through this, it can look really interesting, And this resolution, it's really easy to turn stuff around because it's just going so fast. Let's look at a few things in the Sim tab. The solver, there's only one, so it's easy. Quality generally refers to kind of the numerical precision of your calculation. So at work, I'll bump it up to 10, but you can get a speed increase by going to 7, and you won't really notice any difference. Maximum iterations, keep that at 200. Simulation step refers to, like, if you have objects that are moving really fast, it's kind of like motion blur in the sense that if you have like a geometry cache or a point cache and you haven't sampled it like subframe, like how you calculate that motion blur, you've got to have enough, like if the ball's here on frame 1 and then here on frame 2, like Fume will have trouble because it won't know that it went like this. It'll just think here and then it's here. So doing sub steps like that can get you, so it'll say the ball's here on frame 1 and then on frame 1.1.2, 1.6, and then 2, you know what I mean? So that'd be if you added 2, which I would at least that'd be 3 sub-steps, I guess. That's not recommended. 2 is usually more than enough because it will double the amount of simulation time you have to do. Okay, actually, let's pause here, and the next lesson we'll kind of go into some of the other details on what this stuff does. Okay.